When Walker, Texas Ranger, burst onto screens in 1993, it did more than entertain. It became a cultural symbol of justice, honor, and action. At the center was Chuck Norris, but the show's true staying power came from the depth of its cast. Each supporting character brought heart, complexity, and soul to the world of law enforcement in the Lone Star State. But while fans remember the action-packed show fondly, many are unaware of the real-life struggles and tragedies that followed some of its most beloved stars. In this video, we remember 10 unforgettable actors from Walker, Texas Ranger who have sadly passed away, and the little-known chapters of their lives after the cameras stopped rolling. Clarence Gilliard Jr. as James Trevette. Clarence Gilliard Jr. brought a rare combination of intellect, charisma, and emotional gravity to his role as James Trevette in Walker, Texas Ranger. Introduced in the show's 1993 premiere, Trevette was more than just Chuck Norris's loyal sidekick. He was the modern foil to Walker's old-school toughness. A former pro football player turned Texas Ranger, Trevette was cool under pressure, technologically savvy, and consistently the moral compass of the team. Gilliard's portrayal gave the show a smoother, more cerebral energy that balanced the relentless action and brought a deeper emotional layer to the series. Yet the man behind the character led a life filled with contrasts and quiet battles. Born on December 24, 1955 in Moses Lake, Washington, Gilliard was the son of a U.S. Air Force officer, which meant frequent relocations during childhood. He excelled in academics and athletics, eventually attending the U.S. Air Force Academy before transferring to Sterling College and later earning a B.A. in acting from California State University, Dominguez Hills. His early acting career began with roles in Chips, Different Strokes, and a breakout part as Sundown in Top Gun, followed by a starring role as Theo, the computer hacker, in Die Hard. These roles showcased his versatility and on-screen magnetism. But behind the rising career, Gilliard was struggling. In the early 1980s, while juggling auditions and small parts, he fell into cocaine use, something he later admitted nearly derailed his life. He recounted this dark period in later interviews, acknowledging that he had been breaking God's heart, and credited his eventual sobriety and spiritual conversion as turning points. Gilliard became a devout Catholic, a faith that would anchor him for the rest of his life. In 2001, he left Hollywood at the height of his television fame to pursue a master's degree in theology at Southern Methodist University, and later joined the faculty at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, where he taught acting for over 15 years. Despite this outward transformation, his personal life remained complicated. Gilliard was married twice. His first marriage ended in divorce, reportedly due to infidelity and intense emotional strain. His second marriage to Elena was longer lasting, but also described by insiders as emotionally distant and occasionally strained by his declining health in later years. He fathered 6 children, but by many accounts, his relationships with them were uneven. Extended periods away from home during filming, coupled with the emotional fallout from his addiction and divorces, led to strained connections that were never fully healed. Gilliard's later years were marked by increasing reclusiveness. He lived in Las Vegas in a modest but tastefully decorated home filled with books, religious texts, and memorabilia from his acting and academic careers. He was known to ride motorcycles and had a small collection, reflecting his love for speed and solitude. Though he no longer sought the limelight, he remained involved in theater and independent film projects and gave occasional interviews reflecting on his faith, career, and regrets. When Clarence Gilliard Jr. died on November 28, 2022, at the age of 66, tributes poured in from across the entertainment and academic worlds. Former co-stars and students alike remembered him not only as a gifted actor, but as a generous mentor who emphasized craft, discipline, and spirituality. His death, caused by complications from a long illness he had quietly endured, left many fans shocked. Few had known just how sick he had been. His estate, estimated at around $5 million, included residuals from his film and TV work, earnings from teaching, and revenue from several religious and educational publications to which he had contributed. Noble Willingham as C.D. Parker. Noble Willingham brought unforgettable warmth and gravelly Texas charm to the role of C.D. Parker, the retired ranger turned bar owner and steady moral compass in Walker, Texas Ranger. As the beloved proprietor of C.D.'s Bar and Grill, his character provided more than just food and drinks. He served wisdom, humor, and the occasional hard truth to a cast of younger rangers navigating a dangerous world. His chemistry with Chuck Norris, Clarence Gilliard Jr., and the rest of the cast grounded the series with a sense of continuity and familiarity. But while millions of viewers came to see Willingham as a comforting, straight-shooting Texan grandfather figure, the reality of his personal life, especially in his later years, was more complex and far less idyllic. Born August 31, 1931, in Mineola, Texas, Noble Henry Willingham Jr. grew up in a working-class family during the Great Depression. He served in the U.S. Army during the Korean War and later graduated from North Texas State College, now the University of North Texas, earning a degree in education. For a time, he worked as a high school government and economics teacher in Houston, where he was known for his booming voice and animated lectures. But his passion for acting eventually led him to Hollywood. His big break came in 1970 when he was cast in The Last Picture Show, and from there, he built a solid career as a character actor, appearing in over 30 films including Chinatown, Paper Moon, City Slickers, and Good Morning Vietnam. Despite his wide-ranging film credits, it was television, and specifically Walker, Texas Ranger, that cemented his legacy. Willingham joined the series in 1993 and appeared in nearly every episode through 1999, playing a central role in the show's dynamic. His character's backstory as a tough but wise former ranger mirrored Willingham's real-life persona: no-nonsense, proudly Texan, and deeply principled. However, fans were stunned when he suddenly left the show after 6 seasons. While the departure was officially attributed to Willingham's desire to pursue political office, rumors persisted that behind-the-scenes tensions and personal frustrations played a part. In 2000, Willingham launched an unsuccessful campaign for the U.S. House of Representatives as a Republican in Texas's 1st Congressional District. Though he ran on a platform of traditional values and government reform, his campaign was marred by whispers of poor management, donor concerns, and internal disputes. The loss appeared to deeply affect him, not only cutting short his political ambitions, but also distancing him from the entertainment industry, which he increasingly criticized for what he considered liberal hypocrisy. Colleagues and former crew members described a notable shift in his demeanor following the campaign, with some reporting that he became more withdrawn and opinionated, often expressing discontent with the direction of television and film. Privately, Willingham's life also bore its share of sorrows. He had been married and had children, but by the late 1990s, he was reportedly estranged from one of his children, a rift that those close to him said weighed heavily on his heart. Though he maintained a large ranch-style home in Palm Springs and kept up appearances at conservative events and veterans organizations, friends described his final years as increasingly solitary. His days were often spent reading, listening to old country records, and reflecting on his years in show business, both the triumphs and disappointments. Despite his personal disillusionment, Willingham remained a fan favorite. Audiences never stopped associating him with the integrity and warmth he brought to C.D. Parker. Even today, his presence in reruns of Walker, Texas Ranger evokes a deep sense of nostalgia. He died of natural causes on January 17, 2004, at the age of 72. His passing was mourned by colleagues, fans, and many in his home state of Texas, where he had come to symbolize a brand of principled masculinity that felt increasingly rare. Floyd Red Crow Westerman as Uncle Ray. Floyd Red Crow Westerman's portrayal of Uncle Ray Firewalker in Walker, Texas Ranger was more than just a character role. It was a profound cultural statement. As Walker's Native American uncle and spiritual guide, Uncle Ray wasn't merely a narrative device, he was the series' soul. With calm authority, quiet wisdom, and deeply rooted traditions, Westerman gave viewers a glimpse into indigenous philosophy rarely afforded space in mainstream television during the 1990s. His presence grounded Walker in a legacy of honor, humility, and balance, reflecting a world far deeper than the crime of the week plots surrounding it. Born on August 17, 1936, on the Lake Traverse Indian Reservation in South Dakota, Westerman was a member of the Sisseton Wahpeton Oyate, a Dakota Sioux tribe. His early life was shaped by adversity. Like many Native American children of his generation, he was forcibly removed from his family and placed in a government-run boarding school, where his hair was cut, his language was forbidden, and his traditions were dismissed as backward. This traumatic attempt at cultural erasure left deep emotional scars that would later fuel his life's work as an artist, actor, and activist. Before acting, Westerman was already well known in Native American circles as a folk and country musician. His debut album, Custer Died for Your Sins, named after Vine Deloria Jr.'s influential book, became an anthem of Native resistance. He would go on to record several other albums and perform internationally, often weaving stories of injustice, survival, and indigenous pride into his lyrics. His music wasn't simply art, it was advocacy, a form of protest wrapped in melody. Westerman's transition into acting came later in life, but he approached it with the same mission-driven clarity. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, he appeared in a string of television shows and films, often playing spiritual elders or tribal leaders. His filmography included roles in Dances with Wolves, The Doors, Northern Exposure, and X-Files, but it was Walker, Texas Ranger, that gave him a recurring role that brought his voice into millions of homes each week. In that role, Westerman wasn't just an actor. He was a vessel of intergenerational knowledge, countering harmful stereotypes with quiet dignity. However, Westerman's unwavering stance on Native rights often put him at odds with the very industry that employed him. He was known to push back against scripts he felt were culturally inaccurate or offensive. Producers sometimes labeled him difficult or too political, a term often reserved for actors who dared to question established norms. He was outspoken about the lack of indigenous representation in film and television, and often used interviews and public appearances to call for change. Yet, this integrity came at a cost. He lost roles, was sidelined from projects, and remained largely on the periphery of Hollywood success. Behind his public persona was a man haunted by personal tragedy. Westerman was a widower and had 2 children, one of whom, his only son, died by suicide. The loss devastated him. Though he rarely spoke of it publicly, close friends described the event as a defining moment of sorrow that deepened his spiritual convictions and reinforced his commitment to community work. In his final years, he poured himself into activism, collaborating with organizations like the American Indian Movement and using his platform to support causes related to environmental justice, tribal sovereignty, and youth education. Westerman lived in a modest Los Angeles home decorated with traditional artwork, books on indigenous law, and musical instruments. He continued to tour selectively, performing spoken word and music at tribal colleges and advocacy events. He was a frequent speaker at environmental summits and indigenous rights forums, often drawing connections between colonial history, ecological devastation, and the erasure of Native culture. Floyd Red Crow Westerman passed away on December 13, 2007, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles due to complications from leukemia. He was 71. His death was mourned by tribal nations, fans, activists, and colleagues from around the world. In honor of his legacy, Many of his musical and cultural artifacts were donated to Native educational foundations, ensuring his influence would continue to shape future generations. More than just Uncle Ray, Floyd Red Crow Westerman was a storyteller, a cultural warrior, and a bridge between the past and present. His role in Walker, Texas Ranger served as one of the rare moments when Native dignity was depicted with truth on primetime television, but his real legacy lay in a life that never stopped resisting invisibility. Through music, film, and unwavering activism. Robert Wall as Billy. Robert Wall's brief appearance as Billy in Walker, Texas Ranger, may have lasted only a single episode, but his name carried weight far beyond the screen. To those in the martial arts world and action cinema community, Wall was already a legend, a figure whose real-life combat experience brought unmatched authenticity to every role he played. A ninth-degree black belt in Okinawan Shorin-ryu karate and a seasoned competitor, Wall stood shoulder to shoulder with giants like Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee, not just in films, but in the formative decades of martial arts in America. Born on August 22, 1939, in San Jose, California, Robert Allen Wall began his martial arts training in the late 1950s, eventually studying under renowned instructors like Gordon Doversola and Joe Louis. But it was his association with Chuck Norris, whom he met through competitive circuits, that helped Wall build a broader platform. The two co-founded a chain of karate schools in Southern California, training thousands of students and creating a martial arts empire that extended from dojos to Hollywood. Wall first captured the attention of movie audiences in Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon, where he played O'Hara, the sinister bodyguard whose infamous mirror fight with Lee became one of the most iconic scenes in martial arts film history. Though their fight was choreographed, the intensity was real. So real, in fact, that Lee reportedly injured his hand during filming after making actual contact. Wall would later claim that the scene's aggression mirrored the mutual respect and intensity both men brought to their disciplines. He would go on to appear in multiple Chuck Norris films, including Return of the Dragon, Code of Silence, and Firewalker, consistently playing tough, formidable villains. But Wall's reputation wasn't built on film credits alone. He was a central figure in the early propagation of martial arts in the West, contributing to magazines, hosting tournaments, and running training camps that shaped generations of fighters. His students ranged from everyday practitioners to celebrities and athletes. However, his leadership style was not without controversy. Some former students accused Wall of fostering an overly aggressive hierarchical environment in his schools, where loyalty was paramount and dissent was discouraged. While Wall never responded publicly to those claims, he remained a polarizing figure within martial arts circles. Admired for his skill and commitment, but sometimes criticized for what detractors saw as a cult of personality. Adding to that image was Wall's tendency to embellish stories, particularly regarding his relationship with Bruce Lee. Over the years, he often referred to himself as one of Lee's closest confidants, a claim that some contemporaries and biographers viewed with skepticism. Though the two men undoubtedly shared a professional bond, insiders noted that Wall sometimes exaggerated their personal closeness to maintain relevance in an industry where nostalgia sells. Still, it is indisputable that Wall was a key figure during a pivotal time in martial arts cinema and its rise in the West. On the set of Walker, Texas Ranger, Wall was said to be both commanding and meticulous. He insisted on realistic choreography, often requesting harder contact in sparring scenes than most actors were comfortable with. To him, martial arts on screen should reflect martial arts in life, precise, disciplined, and powerful. His brief appearance as Billy, though minor in script, carried the weight of real-world expertise that few others could match. In his later years, Wall continued to teach and travel, participating in martial arts conferences and speaking engagements. He was deeply involved in the Martial Arts History Museum and remained close with Chuck Norris, often appearing at charity events hosted by Norris's Kickstart Kids Foundation. Wall also trained law enforcement personnel and served as a technical advisor on various film projects. Robert Wall passed away on January 30th, 2022, at the age of 82. While the cause of death was not publicly detailed, his passing marked the end of an era for those who had followed his career from the golden age of martial arts cinema to the closing credits of Walker, Texas Ranger. His estate included a well-maintained training facility, a personal archive of memorabilia from his work with Lee and Norris, and a home in Southern California that doubled as a museum to his life's passion. Eloy Casados as Sam Coyote. Sheriff Sam Coyote brought a sense of quiet authority and cultural pride to the series, and Eloy Casados wore the badge with dignity. Yet behind the uniform was a man at odds with an industry that consistently boxed him into one-dimensional roles. Though he fought hard to elevate Native American visibility on screen and was even honored for his contributions, Casados struggled deeply with personal demons. Following a difficult divorce and the estrangement from his only son, his personal life unraveled in ways few knew. There were also murmurs about financial missteps related to a nonprofit arts initiative. Friends say the emotional toll of it all, coupled with chronic depression, led him to withdraw from the public. Casados passed away on April 19, 2016, at 66. His death, and the circumstances around it, were kept largely private, a fitting end for a man who gave much of himself without always receiving the recognition he deserved. Lou Hancock as Mabel Shoop. Lou Hancock brought tenderness and familiarity to her role as Mabel Shoop, offering moments of warmth in a world of shootouts and standoffs. But her real-life story was one of unfulfilled promise and quiet resistance. In the 1950s, she was a rising talent, until a casting couch encounter altered the course of her career. Rejecting a powerful producer's advance left her blacklisted and disillusioned with Hollywood. She returned to Texas, where she taught drama and continued to act on stage, harboring a bitterness that never quite dissipated. Her return to screen in Walker was a symbolic victory, though it came late in life. She often clashed with younger co-stars, unable to hide her frustration at an industry that had once cast her aside. Hancock died on December 1, 1995, at age 71, with a career and life that deserved more light than they ever received. Michael Parks as Caleb Hooks. Michael Parks was known for bringing intensity and edge to every role he played, and Caleb Hooks was no exception. In Walker, he added a sense of danger and unpredictability to the show's roster of villains. But that darkness didn't end when the director yelled, "Cut!" Parks had a long-standing reputation in Hollywood as a difficult, brilliant actor. Fired from multiple projects, often due to confrontations with producers, he lived on the fringes of the mainstream. His personal life was just as chaotic, marked by a failed marriage, strained relationship with his son, and a private battle with addiction. Though Quentin Tarantino offered him a second chance in the 2000s, the years of professional exile left a permanent mark. Parks passed away on May 9, 2017, at 77. The official cause of death was never publicly shared, and the man who once seemed destined for stardom was gone, leaving behind a trail of characters as haunted as the man who played them. James Drury as Captain Tom Price. Captain Tom Price was a character steeped in command and tradition, and James Drury wore the role like a well-worn badge. Best known for The Virginian, Drury had once been television royalty, but by the time he appeared in Walker, the Western genre had faded from popularity, and so too had his stardom. Drury struggled with that loss, expressing growing resentment toward younger actors and newer Hollywood practices. His personal life was equally unsettled. 2 divorces, including one that ended in public acrimony, and a strained relationship with his sons defined his later years. Friends noted that signs of early dementia began to appear, further isolating him from the world. Drury passed away on April 6, 2020, in Houston at the age of 85, a relic of a bygone era whose final years were tinged with loneliness and loss. Burt Young as Jack Soldier Belmont. Burt Young's gritty portrayal of Jack Belmont was no stretch. Known for playing world-weary, street-smart men, Young embodied toughness both on and off the screen. But his life, though filled with acclaim, was marked by emotional turbulence. A former Marine and boxer, Young had a reputation for late-night blow-ups, stormy relationships, and a deep-rooted inability to maintain closeness with those he loved, including his estranged daughter, who later described their bond as fractured beyond repair. Despite the chaos, Young found solace in art. He was a talented painter and writer, revealing a thoughtful side few ever saw. Yet the shadows of his past always lingered. When he passed away on October 8, 2023, at age 83, it closed the chapter on a man who often lived the very stories he portrayed, raw, real, and unforgettable. Jeep Swenson as Jumbo Stark. Physically imposing and impossible to ignore, Jeep Swenson made an impression as the villainous Jumbo Stark. But behind the muscle-bound image was a man carrying immense personal strain. Swenson's world was shaped by the demands of wrestling, bodybuilding, and typecasting, which fed into a self-destructive loop of performance and pressure. Known for an explosive temper and legal troubles, he lived fast, too fast for his own well-being. His health deteriorated rapidly in his late 30s, and insiders spoke of struggles with dependency and emotional turmoil. Though he landed the role of Bane in Batman and Robin, his growing health issues nearly derailed the opportunity. On August 18, 1997, at just 40 years old, Swenson passed away from heart complications, a reminder that appearances, no matter how powerful, often hide a world of pain. Each of these actors helped shape Walker, Texas Ranger, into the phenomenon we still remember today. Their characters gave us heroes, mentors, and memorable villains, but behind the fiction were real people with real stories, many marked by hardship, complexity, and quiet courage. As we honor their contributions, let us also remember the lives they lived off-screen, the battles they fought, the love they gave, and the legacies they left behind. Which Walker, Texas Ranger character left the strongest impression on you? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this look back, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with anyone who still holds a place in their heart for classic television. Thanks for watching.